Well, a little breaking news on this Sunday as Nebraska has made another change to the staff, this time coming in a positive form as Jamar Mosy has now been hired as the senior football assistant. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of why this is a great hire for Nebraska, why the timing is important, and also what this means for the 2025 class and recruiting in Missouri, but mainly his son, Isiah Mosy, who's a top receiver in the 2025 class, has visited Nebraska a couple times and is currently committed to Oregon and recently committed after visiting in June. I believe his Nebraska visit was June 14th. So I'm going to give it into a little bit of his background, coaching wise, his accolades, etc. But first things first, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest breaking news in Nebraska football, film reviews, recruiting updates, etc., make sure you subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and turn the bell notification on to be alerted of all of the upcoming uploads. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and dive right into it. Okay, so Jamar Mosey's coming over from Lee Summit North in Missouri. Right, he's coming after taking over that team for about 9 or 10 years. In 2015 was when he took over. Now, in his 8 seasons there, 64 and 38 record, and he was 33 and 5 over his last 3 seasons. So on the back end, he was, very much like Matt Rule's record. It was a kind of a turnaround, and a majority of his record is exemplified on the back end of that. So 33 and 5 over his last 3 seasons. The school had only won 4 games prior to his arrival. Okay. Now, in that time, he also led them in that back half, 2021, 2022, he led them to Missouri Class 6A semifinals. And in 2023, led them to the quarterfinals, and then stepped down to take the same role he has, or a similar role that he has at Nebraska, over at UCF. Now, he was there for the spring, and then, of course, Nebraska has brought him onto the staff now. So, talking and looking back at some of his accolades as a coach there, not only in terms of his record at his high school, but he also won the 2023-2024 NAIA Coach of Character Award. Now, Mike McGurk, the Lee Summit athletic director, said in this interview when talking about his award, winning this award, he said that when he spoke to some of the kids in the athletic department in the football program and asked them about, what Jamar Mosey has brought and how can they describe the football program since he's been there. And he said about 15 kids mentioned the word love in describing the football program. And that stood out to him as a word you don't hear a lot in terms of when you're asking about the first word you hear when you're talking about a football program. One of the things you don't usually hear is just love right off the bat, right? And it comes through in the compassion that he shows. The athletic director also stated that the numbers in the weight room were up, the numbers on the field were up, participation was up, but it's the things he does outside of that as well. Buying backpacks for the kids in the community that don't necessarily have the money to afford them, doing a little bit of the reaching out beyond just the football team across the athletic department as a whole, getting participation up across the board and venturing outside of his specific role in the football program to do a little bit more. Now, when he was speaking, he is very much of the mindset, and this should be everybody's mindset, that character has everything to do with consistency and how you treat people every day. And that is his words. He says, do you tell the truth? And are you consistent in that? What do people feel when they leave your presence? How do you make them feel? How do we treat people from all walks of life? And what he says is it starts with respect, but it starts with respect for yourself first. And that way you can have respect for others. And he says, we use the word love because it's real, it's genuine, and it's family. And I'm just going to take you away here on a quote that he has: before love, you have respect. They have 35 guys playing college football right now from his school. Okay. But the ones that he mentioned, outside of that, even he's talking about law enforcement, the guys that went to the fire department and did other things other than football outside of that. He said, seeing all of them even take pride in their work and seeing how their success and them coming back to him and telling them how much he has helped them. He said, that's what keeps him going. Right. Those are the things that stand out to me because those are the things that somebody only values if they understand those things. That's not somebody who's just going to come out and start saying those things. He's lived it. You see it through the success of the program. Again, he has a good sample size there, so you can see the turnaround he's had, but also the participation numbers went up. You hear the kids speak about him, in these interviews that they did with them, the interviews with the athletic director. He has been nothing but a positive for that period of time in that school. And I would imagine at UCF, he would have made a similar impact had he had more time there. So going back to his most recent tenure, just a high character guy who's all about respect, who's all about love, who's all about family, who's all about being genuine. Who does that remind you of? That is a Matt Rule staff member if I have ever seen one. Now, diving into a little bit of what it means for recruiting. Now, Jamarian Parker from Missouri. We have a couple of other guys on the staff as well. So it's one of those, or I'm sorry, in the recruiting class as well. So it's one of those areas that we want to, tap back into. I think Keelan from last year's class, Keelan Smith was a recruit from Missouri as well. So it's something we're starting to tap back into and dive into. But Jamar has so many ties to the state of Missouri and deep rooted ties that are going to be able to help Nebraska dig in some recruiting efforts over there in Missouri as well. Because again, you have your pipeline states, but having these coaches out and about with ties, in the high school ranks from other states are very helpful too, because you want to be able to pull, like an Isiah Mosey, who's a, over 90 rated 4-star recruit. Those type of guys are going to be there in cities like this. And Missouri does have some talent that come out of there. Jamarian Parker, when you watch his film, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, another thing about this too, the timing of this is important, because I know we know that Nebraska was in a little bit of in trouble for having, analysts coaching or whatever back in the day. Now, of course, about a month ago, they switched that. The Division I Council, they're now allowing support staff to instruct and coach players during practice and during games. So that includes the analysts, your quality control guys, etc. So that is another factor in this, because you have a high level high school football coach coming in to be your senior football assistant. But not only that, he's going to be able to come in and help you recruit. He's going to be able to come in and immediately help you coach these guys. And also, he already has the mindset of the culture that you want being brought over from, just his nature. He fits the culture as a genuine person. And so he's bringing all of those things over. And these are the reasons why I think he's a perfect fit. Now, with Isiah Mosey, I see his dad as the type that's probably going to be the type that's going to let his son make the decision that's best for him, of course. But you do have to believe that this plays a huge part in the recruitment of him. And this is going to be something that potentially, opens up his recruiting back up, or at least he gives Nebraska a second look. Now, again, I can't tell you, because it would be wrong of me to say like he's going to try to pull his son over, because some parents do that, some parents won't. They want their son or their kids to make their own decision that's best by them without having to be tied to them. But I would have to imagine that Nebraska is still going to continue to put the pressure on him, or put the press on him rather, and continue to try to recruit him, and see if maybe he opens the door back up for Nebraska. Because again, visited Nebraska, I believe June 14th, and I think he visited Oregon the next weekend, and then committed to them. So it's definitely something that's going to be interesting to monitor. But overall, just what he brings to the table, what he brings to Nebraska is all positive. There is no negative that's probably going to come from this. And I know saying no negative is one thing, but you have a consistent track record of success over a near decade at a school. And at the end of it, he wins a Coach of Character award. So I think that just goes to show you a lot of what he brings to the table, and what I like about him. I'm very much about character, about respect, about being genuine. And you listen to the man talk, and all of that shines through in the words he says and how he speaks. So a lot of exciting stuff here, on the horizon. Really love what Matt Rule and company have done with this staff. And even though we've had, some hiccups over the last couple of weeks, he's still, nose to the grindstone, sitting out here and making these moves that are probably going to fly under the radar in most circles, but are going to have a huge impact for Nebraska moving forward. So that'll do it for me here. If you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you want more, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.